Hello, esteemed gentlemen. The rarest kind of freedom isn't being alone. It's choosing exactly who gets access to your silence. That line already tells you more about a Sigma male than most books ever will. Because contrary to what the internet loves to sell, this man isn't hunting for attention, validation, or dramatic romance. He's built his life around precision. What he lets in, what he ignores, what he protects, and who gets close enough to actually matter. Here's the uncomfortable fact. Research in behavioral psychology shows that a small percentage of people naturally operate with high emotional independence and low social dependency. They don't bond easily. They don't attach quickly. They don't get lonely the way most people do. Translation: if a man like this chooses someone, it's not accidental, impulsive, or driven by hormones and heartbreak playlists. It's deliberate, almost surgical. That's why most people completely misunderstand the kind of woman a Sigma male can truly love. It's not about looks, hype, or who turns heads when they walk into a room. If that were the case, half of Instagram would already be married to a Sigma by now, and society would be in serious trouble. The truth is far more interesting and far more ruthless. There is a very specific psychological profile that earns long-term access to a man who values solitude more than applause, depth more than noise, and peace more than popularity. Not many women qualify. Not because they aren't attractive, but because they're not internally structured enough to coexist with someone who doesn't need to be needed. Today we're breaking down the only type of woman a Sigma male will ever truly love. Not the fantasy version, not the comment section mythology, but the real-world version that actually survives his standards, his silence, and his razor-sharp independence. If you've ever wondered why some women can't hold the attention of a man who barely gives attention to anything at all, you're about to find out. Number 1. She doesn't need his attention to feel alive. Most people don't realize how addicted they are to attention until it's taken away. The constant checking of messages, the need for replies, the quiet panic when silence stretches too long. For many, attention isn't just nice to have, it's emotional oxygen. A Sigma male can sense that dependence immediately, and it quietly repels him, not because he's heartless, but because he refuses to become someone else's emotional power supply. The woman he can truly love doesn't treat his presence like a battery charger. She has her own rhythm, her own momentum, her own internal fuel. When he goes quiet, she doesn't spiral, assume the worst, or create drama to pull him back into orbit. She keeps living. She keeps building. She keeps enjoying her own company without needing to announce it to the world or perform independence like a badge. That kind of self-sufficiency does something powerful to a Sigma's mind. It removes pressure. There's no invisible contract demanding constant reassurance, no emotional debt being quietly collected. The relationship becomes a choice instead of a necessity. He shows up because he wants to, not because someone emotionally cornered him into it. Ironically, this independence makes her far more attractive than someone who constantly seeks closeness. Her life feels full, even when he's not in the room. She doesn't need to be rescued from boredom, loneliness, or insecurity. She isn't waiting for him to give meaning to her day. When they connect, it's two complete people meeting, not one person carrying the emotional weight of two. There's also a quiet confidence in a woman who doesn't chase attention. She doesn't compete for reactions, validation, or digital applause. She doesn't measure her worth by response time or emotional intensity. Her calm stability creates a grounded energy that feels rare in a world obsessed with noise. A Sigma male respects that deeply because he built his own life the same way. Internally sourced, not externally dependent. He knows how fragile attention addiction is. He's watched it turn attraction into control, affection into obligation, connection into exhaustion. With her, none of that exists. She doesn't need him to feel alive, and that's exactly why he chooses her to share his life with. Number 2. She makes his life harder in the right ways. A Sigma male doesn't grow from comfort. He grows from friction. Ease makes him lazy, predictable, and dull. He knows this about himself, even if he never says it out loud. That's why the woman who truly holds his attention isn't the one who smooths every edge of his life or protects his ego from discomfort. She's the one who quietly forces him to level up. She challenges how he thinks, not by arguing for the sake of noise, but by asking the kind of questions that expose weak logic, lazy assumptions, and emotional blind spots. She notices patterns he overlooks. She calls out self-sabotage without sugarcoating it. When he's cutting corners mentally or settling for something beneath his potential, she doesn't clap politely. She raises the standard. That kind of influence isn't loud or dramatic. It's steady pressure, the kind that reshapes behavior over time. He becomes more disciplined because sloppiness doesn't survive in her presence. He becomes more precise with his words because careless thinking gets exposed. He sharpens his plans because vague intentions don't pass unnoticed. What makes this dynamic powerful is that she never tries to control him. She doesn't manage his choices or steer his life like a puppet master. She simply refuses to participate in low standards. If he wants to stay aligned with her, he naturally elevates himself. Growth becomes a shared language instead of a forced project. Most people confuse love with comfort. They think love should always feel soothing, easy, and affirming. A Sigma male understands something different. The right connection should stretch you, challenge you, and occasionally make you uncomfortable in ways that make you better. Comfort zones are where ambition goes to sleep. She doesn't praise him for who he was yesterday. She respects who he's becoming tomorrow. That forward pull keeps him mentally alive, emotionally engaged, and quietly grateful. He knows that without her presence, certain parts of him would stagnate. The woman who makes his life harder in the right ways doesn't drain him, she refines him, and that kind of sharpening is rare enough to earn lasting loyalty from a man who values growth over ease. Number 3. She has a private world. He will never fully enter. A Sigma male is deeply allergic to emotional possession. He values connection, but he despises control, especially the kind that sneaks in through oversharing, constant access, and emotional dependency disguised as intimacy. That's why the woman he truly respects isn't an open book with every page highlighted and handed over. She has depth that remains her own. She shares honestly, but not recklessly. There are parts of her thoughts, dreams, memories, and inner processing that stay private. Not hidden out of fear or secrecy, but protected out of self-respect. Her identity doesn't dissolve into the relationship. Her inner world remains intact, independent, and self-governed. That creates something powerful: psychological sovereignty. To a Sigma, this isn't distance, it's dignity. He doesn't want full access to someone's mind the way a password unlocks a phone. He respects mystery when it's rooted in integrity. It signals strength, not avoidance. It tells him she belongs to herself first, not to the relationship. This private dimension also keeps the connection alive. There's always more to discover, more to understand, more layers that unfold naturally instead of being dumped all at once. Familiarity doesn't breed boredom when curiosity stays active. He remains engaged because she's not predictable or emotionally exposed in ways that flatten attraction. It also prevents emotional suffocation. Neither of them feels monitored, managed, or psychologically crowded. They can breathe as individuals while still choosing each other. That balance is rare in a world where intimacy is often confused with full emotional access and constant transparency. Her private world gives her stability, When stress hits, when uncertainty appears, when life gets messy, she doesn't collapse into the relationship for identity or grounding. She has her own internal anchor. That emotional self-containment creates calm instead of chaos. A Sigma male finds this deeply attractive because it mirrors how he lives. He protects parts of himself not because he's closed off, but because his inner life is sacred territory. He recognizes the same discipline in her. She isn't distant, she's self-owned. And that subtle independence creates a level of respect, attraction, and longevity that surface-level intimacy could never compete with. Number 4. She isn't impressed by his intelligence or edge. A Sigma male quickly gets tired of admiration. Compliments fade. Praise becomes noise. Being seen as mysterious, sharp, or different stops feeling meaningful when people turn it into a personality costume they expect him to keep wearing. He doesn't want to perform his identity for applause. He wants to live it. The woman he truly respects doesn't treat his intelligence or edge like a trophy to collect or a story to brag about. She doesn't hype him up like a fan. She doesn't repeat his ideas like they're rare wisdom from a mountain cave. To her, his sharp mind and independent nature are normal traits, not magical achievements. That grounded reaction quietly disarms his ego in the best way. This creates something powerful, realness. He doesn't have to impress, dominate conversations, or maintain a persona. He can relax mentally instead of staying in performance mode. There's no pressure to constantly prove he's different or exceptional. He gets to simply exist without an audience. What attracts him even more is that she brings her own mind to the table. She challenges ideas instead of worshipping them. She adds perspective instead of echoing his words. Conversations feel alive, not staged. He respects someone who can think independently rather than orbit his intellect like a satellite. When admiration disappears, authenticity shows up. They talk about real problems, real plans, real doubts, real growth. There's no artificial polish or ego padding. That honesty creates deeper trust than endless compliments ever could. It also protects the relationship from power imbalance. When one person is constantly impressed and the other is constantly admired, silent hierarchies form. Control creeps in. Dependence grows. A Sigma male has zero interest in ruling someone's perception of him. He wants equality, not worship. Her neutrality toward his edge keeps him grounded. It reminds him that being sharp isn't a personality, it's just a tool. What matters is how he uses it, how disciplined he stays, how consistent his character remains. She values substance over spectacle. In a world obsessed with hype, she offers something rare: normalcy without dullness, respect without pedestal, attraction without illusion. And that quiet balance keeps him mentally anchored, emotionally steady, and genuinely connected, not admired, not chased, but truly known. Number 5. She handles conflict cleanly, not dramatically. A Sigma male doesn't fear disagreement, he fears emotional chaos. Raised voices, passive-aggressive silence, hidden agendas, emotional ambushes, and endless rehashing drain him faster than hard work ever could. He values clarity the way others value comfort. If a relationship turns into a battlefield of moods and mixed signals, he quietly detaches. The woman he commits to doesn't turn conflict into a performance. She doesn't need an audience, emotional theatrics, or exaggerated reactions to feel heard. When something bothers her, she says it plainly, not aggressively, not cryptically, just directly. That honesty removes confusion and unnecessary tension. She also doesn't collect emotional receipts. Once an issue is addressed and resolved, she lets it go. No surprise reminders weeks later, no emotional bookkeeping, no silent punishments disguised as maturity. Closure actually means closure with her. That emotional cleanliness creates trust and stability. What truly stands out is her emotional regulation. She can feel upset without becoming destructive. She doesn't weaponize her emotions or use them as leverage. She understands that intensity doesn't equal truth, and volume doesn't equal importance. Her reactions stay proportional to the situation, which keeps the relationship grounded instead of volatile. This matters deeply to a Sigma because his nervous system thrives in calm environments. He thinks best when there's order, predictability, and emotional discipline. Drama feels like mental pollution to him. Peace isn't boring, it's fuel. She also knows when to pause instead of escalating. If a conversation starts drifting toward unnecessary heat, she slows it down rather than lighting more matches. That maturity prevents small misunderstandings from turning into long-term damage. The result is a relationship where problems get solved instead of recycled. Energy goes into building, not repairing constant emotional messes. Trust deepens because words remain consistent with actions. A Sigma male doesn't fall for emotional fireworks. He bonds with emotional reliability. A woman who handles conflict cleanly gives him something rare in modern relationships, a stable environment where focus, growth, and genuine connection can actually thrive. Number 6, she has zero interest in social theater. A Sigma male moves through the world like a ghost in a crowded room, silent, observant, and entirely unconcerned with applause. He doesn't play games for likes, followers, or social validation, and he instinctively spots anyone who does. That's why the woman he truly loves isn't performing either. She doesn't dance to society's invisible scripts or bend herself into roles to fit someone else's expectations. She exists on her own terms, and that alone makes her magnetic. She doesn't compete in popularity contests, chase clout, or measure her worth through attention cycles. Gossip, influence, and performative social climbing mean nothing to her. She doesn't post curated versions of herself for validation, and she doesn't try to manipulate people's perception of her life. Her presence isn't designed to impress or control. It's simply real, consistent, and intentional. That kind of authenticity is rare enough to catch a Sigma male's attention immediately. Because she doesn't play social theater, she gives him permission to be his full self without pretending. There's no pressure to perform dominance, charm, or social cleverness. With her, he can drop the persona the world expects and exist quietly, fully, and comfortably. That freedom is intoxicating for a man whose independence is his lifeblood. Her detachment from social performance also makes her psychologically resilient. She doesn't bend under peer pressure or sway with trends. Her decisions, values, and ambitions are self-directed, not crowd-directed. That strength of character communicates that she can handle complexity, solitude, and challenge, exactly what a Sigma male respects in a partner. She doesn't crave attention for herself, but she commands it naturally. People notice her without her needing to signal, manipulate, or dramatize. That subtle presence mirrors a Sigma male's own existence, quiet, self-sufficient, yet undeniably powerful. In a world obsessed with social theater, she's an anomaly. She doesn't need to perform to be noticed, to be loved, or to matter. That lack of superficiality creates a magnetic, rare bond with a Sigma male, one built on genuine respect, alignment, and the kind of freedom both crave but few can find. Number 7, she is comfortable being misunderstood. A Sigma male lives in a world where most people constantly misinterpret him. His choices, his silence, his independence, and even his success are often seen through the lens of insecurity, ego, or rebellion. He's aware of it, he doesn't care about approval, but he's also quietly wary of those who can't handle being around someone unconventional. That's why the woman he truly loves is one who doesn't need constant validation from the crowd or anyone else. She's comfortable being misunderstood. She doesn't bend herself to fit expectations or explain herself endlessly to win acceptance. She understands that her thoughts, her principles, and her behaviors might confuse others, and she's okay with that. She doesn't feel compelled to translate herself into digestible sound bites for the people around her. That level of self-possession communicates strength, clarity, and internal security, qualities a Sigma male instantly respects. This comfort with being misunderstood also allows the relationship to thrive without noise. There's no need for social approval to dictate their choices, decisions, or emotional closeness. She doesn't live her life through the lens of what others think, which aligns perfectly with a Sigma male's disdain for public performance. She operates by her own rules, quietly strong, quietly confident, and unconcerned with consensus. Moreover, being misunderstood gives her a sort of freedom most people never experience. She can think deeply, act independently, and pursue her own goals without the burden of explanation. That autonomy mirrors a Sigma male's own life structure. Both operate by principles, not permission. Finally, she has patience with perception. When others misread her actions or judge her decisions, she doesn't react impulsively or defensively. She lets her life, her results, and her consistency speak for themselves. That kind of resilience is magnetic to a Sigma male, because he knows the value of being seen for substance, not appearance. A woman comfortable being misunderstood doesn't demand conformity, she doesn't require constant justification, and she doesn't shrink for anyone's comfort. For a Sigma male, that rare combination of independence, clarity, and patience makes her not just attractive. It makes her unforgettable, indispensable, and the only one he could ever truly love. Number 8. She values competence more than charm. A Sigma male has no patience for surface-level charm. Smooth talk, flashy gestures, and polished appearances may get temporary attention, but they don't earn respect or loyalty. He's built his life around results, consistency, and skill, not applause. That's why the woman he truly loves doesn't chase charm or decoration. She values competence in herself, in him, and in the way the world operates. Her admiration isn't based on how clever he looks in public or how easily he impresses people. She notices whether he can deliver, whether he can think critically, whether he can handle responsibility without panic or pretense. That subtle but unwavering focus on actual ability signals to him that she operates on a reality-based level, not a performance-based one. She also mirrors that competence in her own life. She can manage challenges, make decisions independently, and handle pressure without dramatics or attention-seeking behavior. She's reliable, skilled, and capable, not because she wants to prove herself, but because she lives with discipline and purpose. That natural alignment with his values draws him in, because it allows him to operate without managing her emotions or shielding her from consequences. Competence over charm also creates authenticity. With her, there's no guessing games, no smokescreens, no shallow admiration for appearances. Everything is measured, intentional, and grounded in skill and integrity. She doesn't need to perform for attention or validation. She earns respect quietly through her actions and results. A Sigma male responds to this because he understands the difference between fleeting fascination and lasting value. Charm fades, skill and reliability endure. He knows that a woman who prioritizes competence will not only stand by him in complexity and chaos, but also elevate him without demanding a pedestal. This dynamic removes unnecessary friction from the relationship. There's no vanity-driven competition, no superficial social juggling. Instead, there's mutual respect, shared standards, and a deep attraction rooted in substance rather than spectacle. For a Sigma male, that combination is rare, magnetic, and often non-negotiable. the very essence of the woman he will truly love. Number 9. She doesn't need to be saved, fixed, or upgraded. A Sigma male has no patience for emotional projects disguised as relationships. He's seen it countless times. Someone falls in love with the idea of helping or improving another person, thinking that the relationship's value comes from effort spent rather than mutual respect. That's the exact opposite of what a Sigma male wants. The woman he truly loves doesn't need saving, fixing, or upgrading. She's already whole, functional, and self-contained. She doesn't rely on him to fill gaps in her life or repair past wounds. Her independence isn't a performance, it's an internal reality. She has her own stability, her own emotional structure, and her own goals. That creates an uncommon kind of freedom in the relationship. He doesn't feel burdened by responsibility for her happiness, growth, or identity. Instead, he can engage fully, not as a caretaker or problem solver, but as an equal partner. Her completeness doesn't make her rigid or unrelatable, it makes her reliable. She shows up emotionally without being needy, communicates clearly without dramatics, and makes decisions without second-guessing herself constantly. That kind of consistency resonates deeply with a Sigma male because it mirrors his own approach to life, self-regulated, disciplined, and deliberate. She also doesn't expect him to perform heroics or validate her existence. She isn't impressed by effort alone. She values alignment, shared standards, and mutual competence. This removes the hidden hierarchy that often creeps into relationships where one partner feels responsible for fixing the other. With her, there's equality, clarity, and an unspoken understanding that each person stands on their own feet. A Sigma male recognizes and respects this immediately. He knows the energy it takes to maintain a life of completeness, and he sees her independence as both rare and essential. Relationships built on imbalance, where one person carries the weight of the other, drain him quickly. But with someone who is already whole, the connection becomes synergistic. Two strong, independent individuals choose to share their lives, challenge each other, and grow together without obligation or compulsion. She doesn't need saving, fixing, or upgrading, and that's exactly why she's the woman he will invest in fully, without hesitation, and never let go. Number 10. She doesn't fear his dark thinking. A Sigma male's mind isn't like most people's. He thinks in extremes, questions motives relentlessly, and explores the darker corners of human nature without flinching. Most women shy away from this. They feel uncomfortable, threatened, or compelled to lighten the mood constantly. That's exhausting for him. The woman he truly loves doesn't fear the shadows in his mind. She can sit with them, understand them, and engage without judgment or panic. She doesn't take his introspection personally. When he analyzes failure, human weakness, or life's harsh truths, she listens and processes without turning it into an attack or a drama scene. She can handle conversations about morality, ambition, manipulation, and the raw realities of life without needing to shield him from his own thoughts. That calm acceptance creates a rare kind of psychological safety, a space where he doesn't have to hide the parts of himself society deems too dark or too intense. Her fearlessness doesn't mean she agrees with everything he thinks. She has her own moral compass, opinions, and boundaries, but she doesn't react with judgment or emotional volatility. Instead, she challenges him thoughtfully, questions him intelligently, and pushes him to refine his thinking rather than censor it. That dynamic sparks respect and deep mental intimacy, something a Sigma male cannot tolerate without it being genuine. This kind of woman also mirrors his own courage. She faces uncomfortable realities, examines them honestly, and navigates complexity without panic. That resilience is magnetic because he lives in the same mental landscape daily. Being with someone who cannot handle the intensity of his mind would feel like living in a cage. With her, it feels like a partnership of equals, intellectually and emotionally. Ultimately, she doesn't fear his dark thinking because she recognizes it as a tool, not a flaw. It's part of his depth, his strategic awareness, and his self-mastery. By accepting it without trying to fix, dilute, or escape it, she earns a place in the rare circle of people he truly values. In a world full of surface-level attraction, her courage to meet him in the depths makes her unforgettable, the only woman he will ever fully trust, respect, and love. Number 11. She has a low tolerance for wasted time. A Sigma male doesn't have patience for fluff, excuses, or distractions that don't serve purpose. Life is too short, energy is too finite, and attention is too precious. That's why the woman he truly loves isn't someone who drifts aimlessly, delays decisions endlessly, or wastes her own potential, or his. She values efficiency in thought, action, and energy. She moves with clarity, intention, and precision, and that focus is magnetic to someone who measures life by results, not appearances. She doesn't linger in indecision or second-guess herself endlessly. She doesn't get caught up in drama loops or social obligations that have no meaning. Every choice she makes has a reason, every action has direction, and every day she spends is calculated for growth, progress, or genuine experience. That level of intentionality isn't about being rigid. It's about valuing life enough to not squander it, and it resonates with a Sigma male who feels the same way. Her low tolerance for wasted time also applies to relationships. She doesn't entertain energy vampires, performative commitments, or fake loyalty. If someone doesn't match her effort or align with her values, she disengages quietly, without drama. That creates a rare kind of psychological alignment with a Sigma male because he operates the same way. He doesn't chase, plead, or manipulate for attention. He invests only where it matters. She meets that standard naturally. This quality makes her decisive, grounded, and highly dependable. When she says she will do something, it happens. When she commits, it's real. She doesn't float through life, waiting for circumstances to dictate her next move. That precision reduces friction in the relationship, allowing both of them to focus on growth, challenges, and meaningful connection instead of trivial distractions. For a Sigma male, this isn't just attractive. It's essential. She doesn't waste time because she values herself, her life, and the people she allows into it. And when he recognizes that, he sees a partner who matches his pace, respects his energy, and elevates his existence. With her, life is purposeful, deliberate, and alive, exactly the kind of woman he can love without hesitation or compromise. Number 12. She can sit in discomfort without escaping. A Sigma. Male doesn't run from life's harsh edges, and neither does he expect the woman he loves to. Most people flee discomfort. They scroll their phones, distract themselves, or complain endlessly to avoid facing what's difficult. That kind of avoidance irritates a Sigma because he thrives in reality, even when it's uncomfortable. The woman he truly loves can sit in discomfort without trying to escape, fix it immediately, or turn it into a production. She doesn't need constant comfort, reassurance, or excitement to feel alive. She can tolerate boredom, uncertainty, and the unglamorous stretches of life without losing her sense of self. When things are awkward, tense, or delayed, she doesn't panic or fill the void with unnecessary noise. She endures, reflects, and moves forward with patience and clarity. That ability isn't just emotional maturity. It's a rare kind of inner strength that mirrors the mental independence a Sigma male himself possesses. This doesn't mean she enjoys discomfort. It means she understands it's temporary, unavoidable, and often necessary. She can handle delayed gratification, delayed results, and situations where clarity isn't immediate. She doesn't give up on challenges, relationships, or opportunities simply because they require effort or endurance. That resilience communicates that she is self-sufficient, stable, and mentally disciplined, qualities a Sigma can rely on and deeply respect. Her tolerance for discomfort also makes her fearless in deeper ways. She can face difficult conversations, harsh truths, and life's unpredictable turns without being reactive or overwhelmed. She processes tension quietly and strategically rather than letting it control her actions or emotions. That level of control over herself creates a space where he can be equally unfiltered and honest without fear of judgment. A Sigma male is drawn to this because he recognizes that true growth, deep connection, and meaningful experiences almost always emerge from discomfort. A woman who can sit with life's challenges instead of escaping them doesn't just survive, she elevates him, the relationship, and the life they build together. She's rare, unshakable, and the kind of woman a Sigma knows he could never replace. Every Sigma male operates on a different wavelength, one that values depth, precision, and independence above all else. He doesn't chase, he doesn't perform, and he doesn't settle for emotional fluff. The woman he truly loves is not someone who simply meets superficial expectations or looks impressive from the outside. She is rare, disciplined, mentally independent, and quietly formidable. She doesn't need him to validate her existence, to fill gaps, or to rescue her from life. She is already whole. She challenges him in ways that sharpen him, respects his boundaries without question, and can sit in discomfort without crumbling. She is fearless in facing life's complexities, and she operates with a level of competence, patience, and clarity that mirrors his own. What makes her extraordinary, and why she becomes the only woman he can ever truly love, is her alignment with his rhythm of life, her respect for his solitude, and her ability to elevate him without demanding him to perform or compromise. She doesn't obsess over charm, status, or social validation. She sees life for what it is, acts with precision, and values substance over spectacle. She's unshakable, self-owned, and unapologetically sovereign. In her presence, a Sigma male feels both understood and challenged. He feels grounded yet elevated. She is not just a partner, she is a mirror, a standard, and a force that sharpens him without trying to change him. In a world full of fleeting attractions, drama-driven relationships, and superficial connections, this kind of woman is a rare anomaly, one that earns his loyalty, respect, and enduring love. She doesn't just share his life, she amplifies it, enhances it, and complements it in a way no one else can. And for a man who values depth above all else, finding her is not just fortunate. It is inevitable that he will recognize her as the only one worth giving himself to completely. If this breakdown opened your eyes, gave you insight, or made you rethink the way Sigma males operate in love, make sure you hit that subscribe button to join our channel, drop a like to show your support, and leave a comment sharing your thoughts. Don't forget to share this with friends who need to understand this rare dynamic, because these truths about Sigma love are too powerful to keep to yourself.